Hello everyone, Feed here with part 1 of the Blazing Deserts builds video. Today I'll show you 5 builds that you can use for your team. Due to the perk rework, lots of builds have changed. Some are now weaker, some are stronger, and some completely new builds emerge. Beside all the perks and stats, I will also explain the reason behind each build. For this, I will be using this tool called bbplanner.xyz. Shout out to Unislash for making this, it's awesome. Alright, let's go. First one is the most anticipated build from the DLC, and it's quite fun to play with. The Gunner. He is basically a crossbow polearm dude, and the crossbow and the polearm both require not much stats at all. 80 plus range attack and 75 plus melee skill is fine. You need some initiative for dodge and overwhelm. Overwhelm synergize well with gun, and dodge will help you survive both in range and melee, since you have to be quite close to the enemies to use the gun. You have the polearm to defend yourself against enemies that try to get close to you. For the perks, you can go student into dodge into quick hands, crossbow mastery, overwhelm, berserk, killing frenzy, and then go back for recover. We'll still have one spare perk, so you can put it into either gifted or resilient or footwork. You can pick polearm mastery if you want to use billhook, or skip it completely if you want to use other pole weapons. You can use long axe or pole hammer without mastery just fine, but use some form of pole weapons because the gun becomes a bit hard to use once the front line clash with each other and the enemy along with your own brother are all mixed up. You don't want to shoot your own guy in the back of the head now, do you? For equipment, it's quite simple. Just use whatever nimble armor you have, swap between the gun and the crossbow depending on the fight, and carry a pole weapon. Maybe a net too. I don't have the gun right now because the site does not have the items from the Blazing Deserts yet. The handgun excels in fights with lots of enemies. Even enemies with decent armor get shredded in a couple turns if you have multiple gunners working together. And you should. A lone gunner is a sad gunner. He will be scratching away at the enemy's armor and do meaningless damage. You need at least 2, if not 3, if you want to see good result. Don't forget you are overwhelming everything too. The only shortcoming of the gunner is their lack of range and focus damage. What the gunner lacks, the archer excels at. The second build is the good old thrower archer. This guy shoots down dangerous enemies from afar, and anything that can't be shot down because of armor, the throwing weapons will take care of. An archer with a warbow can outrange anything and do damage from anywhere. The javelins can punch through even orc warriors and chosen's armor. Anything that resists arrow and javelins, like ancient undead and shreds, get the throwing axe. There is nothing in the game that the archer is not good against, except maybe the kraken. In order to become a good archer, it's very simple. You need to be a hunter and have 2 stars in range. You don't need any star anywhere else. Range attack is all that matters. 95 is what you should aim for, but 90 is okay too if early in the game. Split your roles into HP, fatigue, and range defense, whichever rolls well. For the perks, I have tried many variations with bullseye, anticipation, executioner, recover. This is what I like best. Student into recover, into bullseye, bow mastery, footwork. We have recover and footwork at level 6, so we can fight Lindworm. Next is nimble at level 7, and then berserk, killing frenzy. Go back for quick hands, and then you have the throwing duelist combo at level 11. Bullseye is much needed now that palisades are a thing and enemies are now smarter and cover themselves better. Footwork is crucial for survivability. Enemy now flank you a lot. Orcs and unholds are always gonna go for you. For equipment, just use whatever nimble armor you have. Have a war dog for safety's sake. The amount of arrows and javelins and throwing axe you bring depends on the fight. You also want at least 2 or 3 archers in your team. 3 is what I like to aim for. They can shoot down all the berserkers and marksmen and hexen before they can reach you. 4 is even better, but it's difficult to keep that many archers safe. The next build is the big Cleaver build. The 200 Cleaver is one of the best in the game because of the sheer base damage, time start by 2 attacks per turn, add in another attack from berserk, all that with bleed and decapitate on top. Don't forget the berserk recover combo, and most importantly the whip synergy. Do I have to go through how OP the whip is too? Okay, here goes. This arm makes anything with a weapon useless. It can kill guys from afar, can finish off low HP enemy 3 tiles away, and stack a bunch of bleeds on big beast. Now these two OP weapons together with quick hands, think of the possibilities. Perk wise, this is what I go for. Didn't recover quick hands, so a little bit quick early on, but once you get Cleaver Mastery at 5, you are already very useful with the whip. Continue with Underdog Berserk into Battleforge. Reach advantage helps you with the defense, and even though you have the whip, Indom is still important for a frontliner. You can skip Brawny and go for Pathfinder if you have enough fatigue already, and you can skip Quick Hand and go for Gifted if you need that extra attack and defense. For this guy, go for a good amount of fatigue since both the Cleaver and the whip consume quite a bit of stamina. I go for 75 usable fatigue, 90 plus attack, and at least 30 defense. 30 is a bit low, but disarm and reach advantage will help keep you safe. For gear, just use the best armor you have that allow him enough fatigue to work with. Backpack a whip of course and put the undead trophy on him if you want to use him to kill guys. Amongst the 200 Cleaver, the Barbarian Warblades are the best because of 10% more armor piercing. There is always one famed Madman Cleaver on the map, so there is no reason to not build at least one big Cleaver dude for your team. Compare this build to the Cleaver Duelist. The Duelist needs the extra Duelist perk of course, and can't use reach advantage. If you have a good famed one-hand Cleaver, go for it. But they do roughly the same damage, so I prefer the big Cleaver build. Moving on to the fourth build, the Mace Duelist. This guy is quite similar to the Cleaver. He is a Battleforge damage dealer. Aside from being able to do good damage, he can also stun people, and depending on the fight, he can use the 200 mace to dice. The build is very straightforward. You go Student Gifted Recover, Mace Mastery Underdog Berserk, Battleforge, Killing Frenzy Duelist, Indomitable, and throw in Brawny last if you need it. I like to replace Gifted with Pathfinder if my guy is good enough. This guy doesn't need that much fatigue, but he needs a lot of defense. I go for 90 plus melee skill, 30 plus melee defense, and around 70 usable fatigue. For equipment, use the best armor you have and carry a 2-hand mace in the inventory for fights against big beasts like Unholds and Struts. For Chosen, it's better to go Duelist, and for Orcs you can go Duelist too if you have enough heavy damage. Overall, the Mace Duelist is good versus everything, especially Ancient Undead. He can 2-shot Legionaries and Honor Guards pretty easily, and with a decent Fame Mace, he can one-shot them. The last build for this video is the awesome brand new Dagger Duelist. I'm using the Goblin Notch Blades as a placeholder because the site doesn't have the Blazing Desert items yet. This dude exceeds my expectation. His weapon of choice is the Qatal Dagger, which has the damage of a sword, but only costs 3 action points to attack. He can attack 3 times per turn, 4 with Berserk. If that's not enough to kill something, then Overwhelm will render it harmless. Similar to the Mace and Cleaver build, the Dagger Duelist offers damage and some defensive capability at the same time, but even better because the damage and the debuff happen simultaneously. Death Blow makes his damage go even higher, but you don't need it. It's better to just do some damage and overwhelm people than to set up the combo for the Death Blow. For this build, I go Student, Dodge, Colossus, Dagger Mastery, Overwhelm, Nimble, Relentless, Recover, Berserk, Killing Frenzy, and Duelist. Stat-wise, you want some high initiative background like Thieves and Assassins. Brawler and Beast Hunter and Adventurous Noble are good choices too. You want a decent amount of attack, at least 80, good initiative, at least 160, to move before some of the faster enemies in the game. Your defense can be somewhat low, but Dodge will take care of it. You don't need crazy high attack because even if you miss, you are still doing some overwhelm. This build doesn't have underdog, so don't put him in the middle of the team. Try to fight from the side and latch on to the most dangerous enemy to overwhelm him. For Orc, you can swap to the normal dagger to puncture, so always carry one in your backpack. For armor, use your best nimble armor and put the hyena attachment on it. The assassin armor set is probably the best armor for him. The Dagger Duelist is good versus everything in the game. Weak enemies just die to the damage, while strong enemies get overwhelmed to oblivion and also dies. Also, this guy is immune to a lot of effects that last one turn like Stun, Sound, and Terrified. Because you always move before the enemies, if you use up all your action points and then wait turn, after the enemy move and say stun you, at the end of the turn, the stun will be gone and next turn you can move first like normal, rinse and repeat. The only thing you need to keep in mind is to not get him surrounded. Even with dodge on top of the melee defense, without underdog, he will still die. Be careful of the stagger effect from hammers, and especially serpents. It reduces your initiative and makes your dodge weaker. Serpents also have backstabber and will kill you very quick. Here is the Cleaver with Dagger Duelist killing a Shroud by himself with the help of a random dude with an axe. What can he do? 5%? I knew this guy would be broken against Shrouds, but I didn't know he's gonna get this broken, you know? This is too broken. Alright, I think that's it for part 1 of the video. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in part 2. Take care everyone, feed out.